Hey guys, and welcome to another Diablo 4 build guide. We're still in Season 10 PTR, and this time we're gonna focus on one of my favorite classes, which is Barbarian. And it's actually one of my favorite builds in the entire game, the Frenzy Barb. I actually have a live version for Season 9 guide as well. However, in the PTR, this build is now significantly more powerful. Where in the live version, we will be lucky if you'll be able to push into the 90 plus Tears of the Pit, but in PTR at the moment, with more optimization, average player can expect to push even into the pit tiers 100 plus, which is actually really exciting for one of, in my opinion, most fun builds that barbarians have at their disposal. We're just rocking Frenzy, we are slicing and dicing all the monsters in our path, it's super fun, we're easily breaking the attack speed cap of 200%, and the whole build is just super fast, super fun, and really great to play. So if this is something that feels fun to you, then sit tight and relax, because as always I will take you through everything you need to know. Everything from skills, Paragon, items, gameplay, and more. Of course, the usual disclaimer, as this is the PTR, some things are of course going to be different in the live version of Season 10 when it launches. However, again, from my experience, most things tend to be only numerical in nature, and I expect this build is going to remain largely the same and also just as strong in the live version when Season 10 actually drops. And also, if you're new to the channel, welcome. If not, welcome back. I'm Fallen Messiah. Diablo is my favorite franchise, and ARPGs are kind of the main focus of this channel, so if you like this kind of content, I would really appreciate it if you drop a like and a sub to the channel, because it really helps me out tremendously. As with any of my other guides, you will also have a written planner down below, pinned in the comments and also in video description, just for your reference in case you have any further questions. Additionally, I'm also always available in the comments, feel free to ask me whatever you want, and I will reply as soon as I can. Anyway, let's jump straight into the guide. And we're starting off, of course, with skills first, as is usual for my build guides. Now, as far as the actual build overview, there's not a whole lot of things to say about this. We are using the basic skill Frenzy, we're stacking up ranks, we're stacking up max resource. As you can see, we have over 500 Fury, and we're mostly doing that because we have this aspect of adaptability on our amulet that rewards us with more damage per point of Fury that we have. So let's go through the skills first, and then we talk about items second. So we're gonna put 5 points into Frenzy. This is of course our main skill, main damage dealer. It's a super fun spell because it's just innately so fast, and also when we get 3 stacks of Frenzy, we just have to attack 3 times. We get 60% bonus attack speed. So Frenzy easily hits the 200% attack speed cap. We're also going with Enhanced Frenzy and Combat Frenzy for more damage reduction and movement speed per stack that we have. We're also going to skip core skills entirely, but we will put 1 point into Pressure Point and 3 points into Warpath, because after we overpower, we deal 20% increased damage for 4 seconds. We have 1 rune word that's gonna help us to overpower on a consistent basis, so this is going to proc all of the time for us. 3 points into Tempered Fury. This is a straight up multiplier for our damage, as I explained earlier. We're gonna put 1 point Rallying Cry, Enhanced, and Tactical. Shouts are amazing, they're a staple of any barb build, so this grants us Unstoppable, more Fury, which is in turn more damage, so just overall a great thing to have. We're gonna put 3 points into Imposing Presence for more life, and 3 points into Martial Vigor for more damage reduction. We're gonna put 3 points into Belligerence. Belligerence is an amazing passive for us, so we get 48% extra damage whenever we attack with a basic skill, which Frenzy of course is. 1 point into Challenging Shout, and Enhanced Challenging Shout just for extra life and more tankiness. 1 point into Warcry, Enhanced, and Power Warcry. This is a great source of damage multiplication for us. It's not always available, but whenever we do hit Warcry, we deal a ton of more damage. 3 points into Booming Voice to make sure that our shouts last just a little bit longer. 3 points into Swiftness for more movement speed, which is always a great option. We're gonna put 3 points into Aggressive Resistance. We will always be Berserking. We have 100% of Berserking uptime thanks to the Chaos perk that we have rocking, which I'll explain in more detail a bit later. So this is just a great source of damage reduction for us. 3 points into Pit Fighter, 3 points into Slaying Strike, and we're gonna put 2 points into No Mercy. These are all great sources of damage for us. 1 point Steel Grasp, Enhanced, and Warriors. Steel Grasp is an amazing complementary skill to our build. it does several things for us. First of all, it groups the monsters together. Second of all, it applies vulnerable, and also thirdly, it also applies the pain gorger effect, just so we can do even more damage with our frenzy. So it's a really nice complementary support skill for our build. We're gonna put 3 points into thick skin. I'm going to shoot that we fortify extremely quickly with this. 3 points into counter-offensive. This is going to be our main damage passive next to the belligerence on this build. While we have fortify for over 50% of our maximum life, which is going to be happening all the time, we deal more damage. And also 3 points into defensive stance for even more damage reduction. We're gonna put 3 points into duelist for even more attack speed. 5 points into Wrath of the Berserker. This is the ultimate that we're using. It's the best one that currently we have as barbarians. To be honest, I would like to replace this with something else, but there really isn't any viable alternative. It's just too good. So we're gonna put 5 points to decrease the cooldown, and also Prime and Supreme Wrath of the Berserker. And finally, we're going with Unconstrained. Once again, I would like to replace this, but it's just too good. It enhances our Berserking damage bonus by 60%. This is a straight up multiplier because we're always Berserking. And the reason why we're always Berserking is because of this secondary bonus. While not healthy, we are always Berserk. And we're never healthy thanks to a Chaos perk, which I will talk about a little bit later. But basically, we're always at 50% life, so this is always active. Alright guys, it's item o'clock now. So, we're really taking full advantage of the new Chaos Uniques. They're such an amazing addition for this game, and I would love this to be a permanent addition to Diablo 4, even though I think they already confirmed that they're going away after Season 10, which I think is a shame. They open up so many builds, and for people like me who love theory crafting, who love making new builds, this mechanic is just an absolute dream. But anyway, we're gonna start out with Shaco, Harlequin Crest. This is pretty self-explanatory. The main reason behind this is because we want to stack up max resource. So as you can see, I don't even have the ideal tempers here. Ideal temper would be a triple crit on max resource. However, because of the new cap to the adaptability aspect, anything past 500 resource doesn't do anything in terms of damage. So we are already hitting that cap, so the fact that this isn't masterworked optimally is not that much of a problem. But ideally, you want to hit max resource with a triple crit, and then of course, if one lands on max life, armor, or cooldown reduction, that's fine as well. Secondary effect, also very nice, just damage reduction, +4 to skills, definitely the best in slot item for us. Then Shroud of False Death. I already talked about this item ad nauseum. This is the best item in the game. I also have a video where I talk about this item. I dissect it in great detail, so if you wish to learn more about why it's so good and why it's in every single build pretty much, check that out as well. But anyway, +1 to all passives is amazing for damage, for resistances, for utility, for every single aspect of this game. All stats is also an amazing affix because it helps to proc our rare Paragon nodes with ease, and also max life is of course always good as well. Ideally, you want to triple crit all stats with Masterworking, but max life is fine as well. Try to make sure you don't crit the other two affixes because they are kind of useless. So for the gloves, we're going with the Hooves of the Mountain God. This is our first Chaos Unique. These are ordinarily unique boots, but we're going to switch them to the glove slot so that we can take a full advantage of the Chaos Unique mechanic, because properties on these items can roll even higher on these Chaos Uniques. So we actually get more benefit out of the existing items if we change them to a different item slot. This is just overall an amazing item for us, introduced in this Season 9. Whenever we cast a basic skill while we're at max fury, it causes our fury to drain, but our skills deal up to 120% increased damage. So this is just an amazing, huge boost of damage for us. And also we want to make sure that we stack up on Belligerence, the passive that provides us with even more damage. Triple crit there would be great, but at least double crit is also completely fine. Second Chaos Unique is going to be the rework to Battle Trance. You know what Battle Trance is? It's that useless amulet that's supposed to benefit Frenzy, but nobody ever uses it because it's trash. Well, now it's no longer trash, but even more importantly, we can now actually use it in a slot that is not the amulet, which is pretty much the most competitive item slot in the entire game. So we can actually benefit from Battle Trance for once in our lives by moving it to a different item slot. I have chosen Pants. How you choose to juggle these items is completely up to you, by the way. So if you want to have Battle Trance on gloves or hooves of the mountain god on pants, that's completely fine. Now, as far as the affixes are concerned, this item has some amazing properties. Percentage to strength, max fury, and frenzy ranks are all good. Try to make sure to double crit max fury, this is still our biggest damage scaler, and then if you can get one masterwork to frenzy ranks, that's also pretty nice as well. Ideally, you will want a GA to frenzy, but this also does a great job nonetheless. The effect here also says that it increases the frenzy's maximum stacks by 2, and while we're at max stacks, which is going to happen all the time, we deal 32% increased damage. So that's just gonna be really great for us. And this is a third Chaos Unique item that we're using, removing Pain Gorgers from the glove slot to the boot slot. And also, again, once more, the order of these things, how you choose to juggle them, is completely up to you. Just make sure you have these 3 Chaos Unique items. You're probably already familiar with Pain Gorgers, but basically, whenever we damage enemies with a non-basic skill, and for us in particular, that's going to be Steel Grasp and Wrath of the Berserker, other enemies gain this kind of a debuff, and they take more AoE damage from all of our basic skills. It's super powerful, and we really want to take full advantage of that. As you can see, I actually forgot to masterwork this. This is ridiculous. So I cleared Pit 95 without even masterworking this item, which just goes to show that this build can definitely easily go into the hundreds with just a little bit more time and optimization. Ideally, of course, you want to make sure that you triple masterwork basic skills, but if one crit lands on cooldown reduction, that's completely fine. So for the first weapon, it's gonna be a two-handed mace, of course, and it's going to be the aspect of the Moonrise. It's a huge scaler for our basic attack damage, and also affixes are gonna be strength, max life, crit strike damage. For tempers, we're going with crit strike damage and chance for frenzy to hit twice. You want to make sure this is as close to 100% if you can. You will achieve this with a double crit on this affix. Ideally, third one should go to strength, but I wasn't that lucky, but it's still fine. Just as long as you have this chance 100%, because this is just a straight up damage multiplier. For the weapon number 2, we're going with Ramalanis. This is also an amazing weapon for this build. Skills using this weapon, which Frenzy does, do increase damage per point of Fury. We already are stacking Fury aggressively, so this item synergizes amazingly with the overall build. You want to make sure to triple crit max resource if you can. And also, ideally, you would like to have the maximum value on this legendary power, which I unfortunately did not get on the PTR, but in live version of the game, with trading enabled, you should be able to get it. Third item is going to be Shard of Rathiel, yet another huge scaler of our basic skill damage. Same story with Masterworking, you want to make sure you triple crit maximum resource, and you want to make sure, of course, you get as close to the perfect on the item power as you can. The last item is going to be Grandfather. Once again, triple crit, max resource, but if you double crit it and you crit life or all stats, it's also fine. Grandfather has some pretty amazing affixes, and it also doubles our crit strike damage, so it's definitely the best in-slot item for us here. Now, for the amulet, we're gonna go with strength, max resource, and counter offensive. And of course, Masterworking, ideally you want to triple crit max resource as well. For our tempers, we're going with Wrath of Berserker cooldown reduction, and you can do crit strike damage, vulnerable damage, any source of extra additive damage is completely fine here. For the aspect, we're going with adaptability. I already explained. Our basic skills deal 0.9% increased damage for each point of primary resource, so up to 500, which is just a shit ton of damage. This is by far the biggest source of our frenzy damage in the entire build. That's why every little point of Fury matters, and that's why we're aggressively stacking Fury to begin with. Ring number 2 is going to be aspect of Earthquakes. We're going with strength, crit strike chance, and chance to make enemies vulnerable. This is very important because this, along with our Steel Grasp, are two main ways to make enemies vulnerable, so we want to make sure they're vulnerable all the time for more damage. And also tempers are going to be Wrath of the Berserker cooldown reduction and crit strike damage as well. We're rocking aspect of the Earthquakes. Our rune words proc the Earthquakes for us, so that's how we're benefiting from that. And the aspect says that while we're standing in Earthquakes and for 4 seconds afterwards, we deal 60% more damage. So we're gonna be benefiting from this all the time. The final item is going to be another Mythic Unique, Ring of Starless Skies. So this build is a bit heavy on Mythic Uniques. I will have a non-mythic variant for the live version of the game, but if you are going to be serious about Frenzy in Season 10, you are going to need a couple of mythics. At the very least, Shaco is the most important one, followed by Grandfather, followed by Shroud, and followed by Ring of Starless Skies, in that order. They're not necessary, but if you want to push into the hundreds, you kind of need all 4 of Mythic Uniques. So maybe this might not be the best build in the start of the season, but in the middle of the season, when you already have a couple of things and characters that can blast to the content, it's a perfect build for that. But anyway, Ring of Starless Skies, we have plenty of ways to expand our primary resource, mainly the Shard of Erathiel, so this effect does proc Ring of Starless Skies. As long as we keep attacking with our Frenzy, we will be getting this buff. This is just a 50% damage multiplier, so it's the best item here as well. And also it has some amazing affixes. So first of all, make sure you get 100% crit strike chance. If you don't have it, then try to triple crit that. If you do have it, then crit attack speed instead. Core skills does nothing for us. Lucky hit chance is helpful to proc the vulnerable effect from the ring, but not really needed otherwise. For runes and socketables, our first rune is going to be Lit and Tech. Whenever we stand still for 0.6 seconds, we're gonna invoke Earthquake. And this is going to directly proc our aspect of Earthquakes on our legendary ring. So we're gonna make sure we have this on all of the time. The second one is going to be Ahu Zan. So up to 100% chance against non-healthy enemies to make sure our next attack causes a guaranteed crit strike and overpower. This is our main source of overpowers, and the main way to proc the Warpath passive for more damage. We can also make sure to put rubies into helms and armor. We're gonna put emeralds in other weapon slots for more crit strike damage, and we're gonna also put diamonds on jewelry for more all-res. This is a very tanky build. As you can see, our armor cap is 1000. We have almost 2000. And also, our resistances are pretty much capped out, so this is a very tanky build. By the way, don't forget consumables, because they're very important. Elixir of Resourcefulness grants us 25 additional resource, which is multiplied by 0.9 for even more damage, so don't forget that. We're gonna pop that up and make sure it's active all the time. Also, Ancient Times for more strength, Redamine Buzz for more life, and Soothing Spices for more resistances and max resistances. And as you can see, once I have Soothing Spices, I also have 85% all res other than poison resistances, so we are really tanky with this setup. Now let's talk about chaos perks, because we have some pretty amazing stuff out there that really multiplies our damage significantly. First of all, we're gonna start with a Beast Cornered. For every 10% life we are missing, we gain 20% increased damage and 5% damage reduction. Now, why would we want that? Well, we're stacking that because we also have a different perk called Marred Guard. These two go hand in hand really well. We no longer can be healed about 50% life, but we also gain more max resistances, even more armor, more barrier and fortified generation. And this one says that for every 10% life we're missing, we gain 30% increased damage. So at any given point in time, because we can no longer be healed about 50%, we have a 100x multiplier on all of our damage. This is just an amazing combination. And of course, if we drop even more in life, we have even more damage. Although that's probably not what you want to do. Second one is going to be Accelerating Chaos. On lucky hit, we have a chance to trigger this chaotic burst, and these bursts also help reduce our cooldowns even further, help with the uptime of our Wrath of the Berserker, so it's a pretty nice perk to have. For the third one, we're gonna go with Erupting Chaos, because we honestly have nothing that's gonna be more useful, so just another extra source of damage. This is not really super significant. Feel free to put something else on this third slot if you have a better idea or something that works for you a bit better. So on my 95 clear, I didn't even use an expertise, because, well, I forgot. But anyway, for our expertise, we're going with a two-handed axe, because we always do. This is just going to be the best one. Just an extra source of even further damage multiplication. Let's talk about Paragon board now. So you need roughly around Paragon level 180, 190 to fully unlock this entire build, assuming of course you have all the reputation bonuses, so I think an average player should really struggle with hitting that goal. You will of course see everything in the planner down below. In the planner, I focused on unlocking the build and just doing the bare minimum. Of course, you're gonna heavily benefit from any extra points on this build that you have. And also, I'm not going to go through every single node, that would take too long. I will only focus on the glyphs and on legendary nodes. So you always want to make sure that you have these bonuses active. You always want to make sure that you have both bonuses on every glyph unlocked as well. So we're gonna be starting off with Wrath. This is just a straight up multiplication on a crit strike damage. Also, our grandfather further multiplies our crit strike damage, so this is actually double dipping, triple dipping if you will. It's a pretty nice glyph to have. And also for any additional points that you can spare on this build, you can select dexterity nodes in range, because everyone increases your crit strike damage even further by up to 25% additively. Board number 2 is going to be Blood Rage, just more damage while berserking, and we are always berserking. Glyph number 2 is going to be Challenger. This one grants bonus to all normal nodes within range, so on level 100 of the glyph, it multiplies them by 2. So 5 strength nodes become 10 strength nodes. So if you have even more points to spare after you finished with this board, putting dexterity nodes here, you can select strength nodes here in range if you're like Paragon level, let's say 250, 260, 270, and you have even more to spare. This is a good option for that. Board number 3 is Weapons Master. We deal more damage to injured and healthier enemies. And also, on this board, we're gonna have a lot of sources of max resource. So we're gonna have Maximum Fury here. We wanna make sure we pick these up. Additionally, we're gonna go with a glyph called Ambidexterous. It's going to give a bonus to all magic nodes within range. So for example, these +2 to Fury become +7, as we are aggressively stacking Fury on this build for reasons that I already explained. This is a great synergy to have on our Paragon board, and don't worry, you will see that in the planner as well. Board number 4 is going to be Warbringer. To be honest, Warbringer doesn't really do much for us. However, it has some pretty amazing nodes for us to catch. Most importantly, these Maximum Fury nodes along the way, and also these Maximum Fury nodes as well. All of this is going to be in the planner, don't worry. Glyph number 4 is going to be Martial. Martial is a great glyph because it helps to reduce the cooldowns of our spells, mainly the Wrath of the Berserker. So every time we use a shout, the cooldown of our Wrath becomes reduced a little bit, which helps with the uptime as well. And our final Paragon node is going to be Carnage. This is just another source of damage multiplication. And the final glyph is going to be Revenge. Whenever we deal Thorns damage, we increase the damage we deal to our enemy. Now, you might be wondering, well, what's our source of Thorns? We don't play Thorns. Well, we have this little passive here called Tough as Nails that it says whenever our enemies hit us, they take an additional 15% of our Thorns as bleeding damage. So if you don't have Shroud of False Death, which is going to put this point for you automatically, you want to put at least 1 point here to benefit from that glyph. And now we're in the final part of the video, which is the gameplay, which is pretty stupidly simple. So here's our Frenzy. Look at how fast you're attacking, we're blasting, and things around us getting absolutely destroyed. We have Earthquakes, we have these Chaos Bursts that look actually real pretty. That's pretty much it. Look at how fast we're attacking. Of course, you want to make sure you always have Wrath of the Berserker for more damage. That we always cast Shouts whenever they're off cooldown. And then, as we have multiple enemies, we always want to make sure that we are using our Steel Grasp to pull them in and to apply the Pain Gorger effect. And that's really the whole thing. We are frenzying the mobs, we're using the shouts, we're pulling them with frenzy, we want to make sure we have as much uptime on Breath of the Berserker as possible. And that's really it. It's so simple, guys. There are some a bit more complicated builds in Diablo 4, but this is not one of them. We go to the pack, we slice and we dice, we keep the uptime of shouts, we keep the uptime of Wrath, and we use Steel Grasp to pull and apply Pain Gorger. And that's the whole deal. And now I'm going to show you my 95 clear, just so you can see how this actually works in action. And here you guys, the 95 clear that I did. This is kind of my litmus test for all of these builds on the PTR. If you can clear pit 95, that on the Paragon 200, this also means that with just a little bit more optimizing, you can definitely push into 100. So this is something that an average player can do. This is very important to me. Whenever I make a video that says that this build is pit 100, this means I actually tested it and that it actually is pit 100 plus. Of course, assuming that other things and values remain the same. I'm sorry about the lack of visual clarity. I should have turned off the damage numbers. I forgot. I'm sorry about that. But as you can see, even with all this chaos, the gameplay is remarkably simple. We're pulling the mobs in with Steel Grasp, and then we're just frenzying. We're trying to keep the uptime on all of our skills. We try to keep the uptime on our shouts whenever we can. We go in, we frenzy the monsters, and then they die. And by the way, on this pit, I didn't even put a technique. I forgot, and I also forgot to masterwork my boots, which I also showed you in the item section. So when we talk about optimizing even further, first of all, make sure you don't forget to masterwork your items like I did. Make sure to select a technique, which I didn't. And then, pit 100 is going to be a very achievable goal for majority of people who follow along this build. And that's it. And there you have it, guys. That's been Season 10 PTR edition of Frenzy Barbarian. As you could see, it was a super fun, super fast-paced build. We're just slicing and dicing all the monsters in quick succession. We are easily breaking the attack speed cap. So if you also enjoy this power fantasy of a dual-wielding, hulking warrior that's just absolutely slicing through all of the monsters in their path, then this is the build for you. Once again, some things are bound to change in the live version of Season 10 than in the PTR, but from everything that we're seeing right here, Frenzy fans can be really pleased with the upcoming season, because once again, this build can definitely push into the pit tiers 100+. So anyway, that's gonna be it for me today, guys. I still have a couple of more builds coming up until the PTR closes, so stay tuned for that. Drop a like to the video and sub to the channel to make sure that you don't miss any further content. And of course, I always appreciate it. Thank you for watching. I'm Paul Messiah, and I'll be seeing you in the next one.